With all of the headlines screaming warnings of a recession, I've been concerned. Since I'm in real estate, I'm wondering, how does a recession affect the housing market? And I'm just guessing that some of you are probably wondering the same thing. And what I know is if we only get our information from media headlines, we aren't going to get the whole story and the perspective that is so important to understand what's really going on. So I want to say first that I don't have a crystal ball, but what I do have is access to what the experts are saying. So I did some research, and while I can't tell you when or even if there will be a recession, history definitely gives us some clues. Hi, I'm Ruth Howard. I'm a principal broker with RE/MAX Equity Group and one half of the Howard team. I work with my husband Frank in Oregon's beautiful Willamette Valley. So here's what I've found. There have been 6 recessions since 1980, and they haven't always equaled a housing crisis. Here's a look at the last 6 recessions in this country, going all the way back to the 80s. As the green shows, home prices actually appreciated in all 4 of those recessions. There were only 2 when we saw home price depreciation. It happened first in the early 90s when the impact was minimal, but what everyone remembers was the housing crash in 2008, when homes lost nearly 20% of their value. Since home values actually climbed in most of those recessions, history shows us that a recession doesn't always mean home prices will fall. And like I said before, nobody knows for sure what will happen, but if you've watched some of my other videos or read our blogs, you understand why the housing market is in a much stronger position than it was in 2008. If you're a buyer and you've pressed pause on your plans, or perhaps you're thinking of pressing pause on your home buying plans, hoping that maybe you'll get a better deal if you hold off, well, let's take a look at that and see what some of the experts are projecting. What we see here are the latest home price forecasts from 7 of the best industry leaders, and each bar shows us how much these experts project home values will appreciate this year. When we look at them all together, the dotted line shows the average rate of appreciation is about 8.9%. So the big takeaway here is none of them are calling for a decline in prices. There simply aren't enough homes on the market for that to happen, but instead prices will keep climbing, but just at a more moderate pace than what we've seen over the past 2 years. And here's a graph showing estimated home price appreciation over the next 5 years. Every quarter, over 100 housing market experts are surveyed on where they see prices going. They forecast just over 9% appreciation for this year and healthy appreciation for the next 4 years after that. So if you're wanting to buy a home, knowing that the experts are forecasting ongoing appreciation, and this again will help you build equity and wealth over time. So this is a very good thing, and maybe an opportunity to rethink getting back into the market. So let's talk about the shifting market. You've seen it in the news and read about it online, so I want to talk a little bit about what this could actually mean and what we're seeing. Here's a graph of existing home sales going all the way back to 2017, including the most recent forecast that we just discussed for this year. When I look at this, a couple of things really stand out. The first thing is 2021 was an incredible year for the housing market. We actually hit a 15-year high in existing home sales. The second thing I see is that the orange bar for this year's forecast shows sales are returning to where they were before the pandemic. So here's why I think this is important. The media talks about how the market is crashing or the boom is over, when in fact the last 2 years were so unusual and we're just getting back on track to where we were before the health crisis. And what we tend to forget is that those years prior to the pandemic were also very strong years for real estate. So what about inflation? The other elephant in the room. We know that it's hit a 40-year high, so again, if you've been thinking about buying a home, you might wonder if you should wait. Here's something to keep in mind. In times like these, it's good to be invested in an asset that outperforms inflation, and this is where home ownership comes in. So take a look at this. It shows the average inflation by decade compared to home price growth going all the way back to the 70s. The blue bars are the average inflation rates in each decade, and the green bars are the average home price appreciation. So what this shows us is that in most decades, housing has outperformed inflation and can be a great hedge. All of this leads me to the question, is this a housing market correction? So here's what Forbes and NAR have to say about that. So the market is undergoing a shift. It's certainly not going through a correction though. And that's because there's a difference between a correction and what we're seeing today. So Forbes defines a correction as a decline of 10 to 20% in the value of a market index or price of an asset. But home prices aren't falling, they're just rising at a slower pace than the abnormally high pace we've seen in the last couple of years. And remember, the projection for this year is 8.9%. While it isn't the same as the record-breaking home price appreciation we saw last year, it's certainly not a decline of 10% or more. So if you see a headline, don't forget to dig deeper. Sometimes headlines can be misleading. So if you're looking or thinking that you might want to make a move, let's connect. We work hard to understand what's happening in the market and in our area, so our clients can feel confident in their decisions, whether it's to buy, sell, or sometimes it's just to stay put. So thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see more about the real estate market and how the Howard team can help you, catch one of our other videos, and I will see you next time.